Hello everyone, welcome to Sam's Summaries. This episode is a deep dive discussion into Sam Fury's summary of the book, The 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing by Ries. It has been created with the help of AI. You can read the original summary at samfury.com.
All right, get ready, because today we're going deep, really deep into the 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing.
By Ries and Jack Trout.
Exactly. This one's a classic, and whether you're, a total marketing whiz or just trying to wrap your head around how those brands you see everywhere got so big.
These laws are like a cheat sheet to figuring out how marketing actually works.
It's like the behind-the-scenes code.
Right.
And they call them immutable for a reason.
They're like the fundamental laws of the marketing universe.
Yeah, pretty much unchanging principles.
Kind of like marketing physics.
Okay, so we're not going to hit all 22 laws today, but we are going to handpick the ones that are just like...
the most impactful.
Yeah.
The ones that can really give you an edge, whether you're building a brand or just trying to decode the marketing landscape.
Think of it like this.
We're giving you a backstage pass to how marketing really works.
Right. Beyond the flashy campaigns and all the slogans.
Exactly.
Okay, let's kick things off with a big one. The law of leadership. And this was kind of mind-blowing because it says that being first in the market is actually more important than having the best product.
It's a wild concept, isn't it? It's about getting into the mind of the consumer first.
So, it doesn't even matter if yours is objectively better if you were just the first one there.
Pretty much. I mean, think about it. The first brand that pops into your head.
The one that sticks.
Yeah, that's the one you're most likely to go with.
So it's like first impressions are everything.
In a lot of ways, yes.
Okay, but does that always hold up? Have there ever been cases where a better product came along later and still became the dominant brand even though it wasn't first?
Sure. I mean, there are always exceptions.
Right.
But the law of leadership shows us just how powerful it is to be the first one to really plant that flag.
To really own that space.
Yeah.
I think even if there are better search engines out there, most people still say,
Google it.
Yeah.
Google was that first one.
To really become synonymous with searching the internet.
They got that mental real estate.
It's like they wrote the dictionary definition for it.
Exactly. And it makes it really hard for competitors to break through.
So being first mover advantage is a real thing.
Big time.
Okay. What about the law of the category? This one's intriguing.
Okay, so this one builds on that idea of leadership, but it adds a twist.
Okay.
It says that instead of just battling it out in a category that already exists,
Right.
you're better off creating a whole new one.
Whoa, okay. So you're not just competing, you're creating the space you're competing in.
You become the king of your own.
Sanctum.
Yes.
But is that always a winning strategy? I mean, it seems risky to try to create a whole new category.
Think about Red Bull.
Okay.
Before Red Bull, did we really have a category for energy drinks?
Not really. It was kind of lumped in with soda.
Yeah, but they didn't try to compete with Coke and Pepsi. They created their own space and it
exploded.
Yeah, now when you hear energy drink.
Red Bull.
Exactly.
So they weren't just another soda. They were something totally new.
And because they defined that category?
They became the go-to. Okay, so instead of fighting for a slice of an existing pie,
bake a whole new one.
Where you get to make the rules.
You got it.
So first, you aim to be first to establish that, initial leadership. And then ideally, you go even further by creating a category where you can really dominate.
That's the ideal scenario.
It's not enough to just be first. You want to be first in a space that you define.
Right.
Okay, this is amazing. Let's talk about the law of the mind.
Okay, this one dives into the psychology of it all.
Ooh.
It says that those first impressions aren't just about being first to market. It's about shaping how people see your brand from the very beginning.
Oh, okay, so this is about feelings and perceptions.
More than just facts and features.
Yeah, those instant associations that pop into people's heads when they see your brand.
Exactly.
How do you even control that? It seems so subjective.
It takes a lot of work. You need to really understand your audience.
Right.
And you need to carefully craft your message, your imagery, your whole vibe.
Okay, so give me an example.
All right, think about Apple.
Okay.
When you hear that name, what do you think of?
Sleek designed, user-friendly, maybe a little cool, a little bit rebellious.
Exactly.
It's more of a feeling
It's an image.
than a list of features.
Right.
They've built this really strong association with certain values and emotions that goes beyond the products themselves. Okay, so the law of the mind is all about figuring out that one core feeling, that instant association you want people to have with your brand.
It's not just about what you sell.
It's about what you represent.
Exactly.
Okay, we're getting deep here, but isn't it risky to rely so much on perception? Like, what if your product doesn't actually live up to the image?
Well, that's where the law of perception comes in.
Oh, there's a lot for that, too.
There's a law for everything.
Okay, tell me more.
This one says that marketing often deals more with perceptions than objective reality.
Really?
People buy based on what they believe.
Even if it's not necessarily true.
Sometimes, yeah.
Whoa, okay, so you're saying marketing is about shaping reality?
Yeah.
At least in the minds of your customers.
To some extent, yeah.
But I guess we see it all the time, right? Like, people will pay way more for a certain brand, even if there are cheaper alternatives out there that are just as good, maybe even better.
It happens all the time.
Okay, give me an example.
Think about expensive wine.
Okay.
Blind taste tests often show that people can't actually tell the difference between a cheap bottle and a really expensive one.
Oh, wow.
But because they believe that the expensive wine is better, they actually experience it as better.
It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
It kind of is.
Okay, so the law of perception is about managing that gap between what people believe and what's actually true.
It's about making sure that the perception of your brand matches the experience you want your customers to have.
Okay, this is making me rethink everything I buy.
It's pretty powerful stuff.
What else is there?
Well, how about the law of focus?
Okay.
This one's all about clarity and simplicity in a world that's full of noise.
Too much noise.
Right. So this law says that you need to find that one powerful word that instantly sums up your brand.
One word. That seems impossible.
It's a challenge, but the good ones nail it.
Okay, but I guess when you think about those iconic brands,
Yeah.
they do usually have that one word that comes to mind.
Like,
Volvo equals safety. Google is search. Disney is happiness.
you got it.
It's about capturing that essence.
In the simplest possible way.
Right, not a whole paragraph.
Yeah.
Just one word.
Because people are bombarded with messages all day long.
Constantly.
They're not going to remember a complicated slogan,
No way.
but a single powerful word.
That sticks.
That's what you want.
like a branding earworm.
Exactly.
The law of focus. Okay, so a lot of these laws seem to be about resisting the urge to do too much,
Yeah.
to like spread yourself too thin.
Mm-hmm.
It's about clarity, focus, and making those tough choices about what really matters.
Less is more.
Okay, and I can see how this could apply to all sorts of things, not just marketing.
Oh, absolutely. These principles are universal.
Yeah.
It's about understanding how people think, cutting through complexity, making smart choices when there's so much competing for our attention.
Well, we've talked about being first, about owning a category.
Yeah.
But what if you're not? What if you're coming to a market where there's already like a major player?
Right. Like, what's the strategy then? That's where the law of exclusivity comes in. It says, don't try to copy the leader. Don't try to outdo them. Find your own unique space.
So it's about differentiation, finding that special something that sets you apart. But how do you find that when it seems like everything's already been done?
Well, it's about identifying a need or a desire that isn't being fully met by those big players, and then positioning yourself as the solution.
So you're not just being different to be different. You're solving a problem that no one else is really addressing. Like, maybe you can't compete on price or features, but you offer something unique.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A specific product feature, amazing customer service, a brand personality that really connects. It's about carving out your niche.
But wouldn't you risk becoming too niche? Like, appealing to such a small group that you limit your growth?
That's the balancing act, right? You want to be different enough to stand out, but relevant enough to reach a sizable market.
Okay, makes sense. Find that sweet spot between being unique and still being relevant. But what if you're not first and you're not creating a new category? You're just kind of stuck in the middle.
That's where the law of the ladder comes in.
The law of the ladder. All right, tell me about this one.
It says that in the consumer's mind, there's a sort of ranking system.
Like a pecking order.
Yeah. The top brands, they've got the most mind share, the most recognition, but even brands lower down can still be successful.
But if you're not at the top, how do you even climb that ladder? Like, could you actually knock those top brands off their perch?
It's tough, no doubt. But
Yeah.
the key is knowing where you stand and developing the right strategies for that position. Like if you're a smaller brand, maybe you focus on a niche market where you can become the leader. Or you highlight a specific attribute that makes you different from the big guys.
So it's about playing to your strengths, even if they're not the same strengths as those leading brands.
Right. It's about finding your lane and owning it. Don't try to compete on their terms. Play your own game.
Okay, liking this one. It feels very strategic, very realistic. But what about those markets where it seems like it's just a two-horse race? Like, is it even possible to break into a duopoly?
Well, the law of duality actually talks about that. It says that a lot of markets end up that way, a battle between two main players.
Right. Coke versus Pepsi, McDonald's versus Burger King. It's like they define the whole industry.
And it shows how powerful those top two spots are. But it doesn't mean there's no space for anyone else. Sometimes the best move is to find a niche within that duopoly.
So you're like existing alongside those giants, maybe even benefiting from their presence while still creating your own space.
Exactly. Maybe you target a specific demographic that the big brands are overlooking, or offer a product that complements what they're doing. It takes creativity.
Right. So you're not trying to overthrow the giants. You're finding a way to play the game differently, be more nimble, more adaptable. But what if you do want to take on those top dogs? What's the playbook for that?
Well, there's the law of the opposite for that.
Okay, hit me with it.
This one says, to challenge the leader, you need to highlight their weaknesses. Don't just try to be better, be different. Offer an alternative.
Ooh, this is interesting. So you find their weak spot and exploit it. You offer something that they're missing.
Exactly. Like, remember Avis, the car rental company?
Yeah, they were always number 2 to Hertz.
Right. And instead of trying to beat Hertz at its own game, they ran with the slogan, "We try harder."
Brilliant.
Yeah.
They owned their position and turned it into a strength.
Yeah.
It's like, we know we're not number 1, so we have to work harder for your business.
And it worked. They found a way to differentiate themselves, to offer a different kind of value proposition.
Okay, we've got strategies for leading, for finding a category, for climbing that ladder, even for taking on the giants. But what happens when a market gets super crowded? How do you navigate all that noise?
The law of division speaks to that. It says, as markets mature, they break down into smaller segments.
It's like that whole thing of you can't be everything to everyone. If you try to appeal to everyone, you end up appealing to no one.
Exactly. Smart companies recognize this and adapt. Instead of stretching their brand too thin, they create new brands or products for those niche segments.
Okay, example time.
Cars. Started with basic cars, right? But now you've got SUVs, trucks, electric vehicles, luxury brands. Each category caters to a different need with its own set of leaders.
Right, you've got your car for off-roading, your car for city driving, your car for eco-conscious consumers.
It shows how important it is to stay on top of those market shifts, to understand how consumer needs are changing, adapt or get left behind.
Adapt or die, as they say.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're learning to be adaptable, to recognize those emerging niches. But is there ever a point where you need to slow down, take a step back, and think long-term?
Absolutely. The law of perspective cautions against getting too caught up in those quick wins.
Like sales and discounts.
Yeah, those tactics might boost sales in the short term, but they can actually hurt your brand in the long run.
So it's about playing the long game, building that brand loyalty, that strong foundation, rather than chasing those fleeting wins.
It's about knowing that some sacrifices might be necessary for long-term success. It's like resisting that instant gratification.
But isn't it tempting to go for those quick wins, especially when you need results, like now?
Oh, it can be super tempting. That's why the law of perspective is so important. It reminds us to keep our eyes on the prize.
Stay focused, keep that long-term vision in mind.
Exactly. And don't lose sight of your target audience. Don't try to be everything to everyone.
Okay, we're being adaptable, but also thinking long-term.
It's a delicate balance.
It is. Now, is there a danger in being too successful?
There can be. And that's where the law of success comes in. It basically says that success can lead to arrogance.
Whoa. Okay, so don't let it go to your head.
Right. Because arrogance leads to complacency. You start making bad decisions. You stop listening to your customers.
You forget what got you there in the first place.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Stay grounded, stay hungry, stay connected to your audience. Don't assume that past success guarantees future success.
Always be learning, always be growing.
And just as important as celebrating wins is learning from your mistakes. Which brings us to the law of failure.
Okay, this one sounds a bit scary. But I guess in any business, in any endeavor, really, there are going to be setbacks. Is this about embracing failure?
It's more about recognizing that failure is inevitable. The important thing is to learn from it, to not be afraid of it.
So don't be afraid to say, hey, this isn't working, and change course.
Exactly. Sometimes quitting is the smartest move. Don't let pride or stubbornness keep you clinging to something that's clearly not working. Be honest with yourself, analyze what went wrong, and move on.
Okay, so we're being realistic about the possibility of failure, but also seeing it as a learning opportunity.
Exactly. And remember, sometimes the biggest breakthroughs come after the biggest setbacks.
Okay, good reminder. But speaking of setbacks, what about all the hype that surrounds certain products or ideas? How do we know what's real and what's just smoke and mirrors?
The law of hype addresses that directly. It says that a lot of times, the most hyped up things are actually failing. Yeah, the truly successful stuff, it's usually quieter, less flashy. It's about substance, not hype.
So don't get fooled by all the noise. Look beyond the surface and see what's really delivering value.
Focus on the long term, not the quick buzz.
Okay, so we're being discerning, looking for the real deal. But what about those companies that do seem to be on a roll, racking up win after win? How do they maintain that momentum?
Well, the law of acceleration makes a distinction between fads, which are fleeting, and trends, which have staying power.
So it's about riding those long-term waves, not getting caught up in every passing fad.
Exactly. Fads come and go, but trends shape the future. Find those fundamental shifts in behavior in the market and position yourself accordingly.
Don't waste energy on the short-lived stuff. Find those underlying currents that will carry you forward. This is amazing. We've covered so much ground. We've talked strategy, psychology, long-term vision. Is there a final law that kind of brings it all together?
There is, and it might be the most important of all, the law of resources.
Okay, the law of resources. Lay it on me.
It's a simple truth, but one that's often overlooked. Even the most brilliant strategy needs resources to succeed.
So, you can have the best idea in the world, the perfect target audience, but if you don't have the money, the people, the infrastructure to support it,
it's going nowhere.
you need the fuel to power your marketing engine.
Exactly. Secure your funding, build your team, make sure you've got the resources to execute your vision. Without them, it's just an idea.
Okay, this is so insightful. We've gone from these big picture concepts to these really practical on-the-ground considerations. It's all starting to click.
And that's the beauty of these laws. They give you a complete framework for understanding marketing, from strategy to execution.
My brain is officially full, but in a good way. I'm still processing all those laws. We've covered 21 of them. What's the 22nd immutable law of marketing?
You know, in a way, this last one isn't really about a specific strategy. It's about you.
Okay, I like this already.
We've talked about all these laws, these principles.
Right.
But it comes down to this. What are you going to do with all this knowledge?
So the 22nd law is like the law of action.
Exactly. It's not enough to just understand these principles.
Right.
You have to actually apply them. Take this knowledge and use it.
This whole deep dive has been incredible. It's like we got a backstage pass to how the marketing world really works.
Right. We've seen the strategy, the psychology, the long-term thinking.
And what's so cool is that it's not just for, like, big corporations.
Mm-hmm.
These laws, they apply to anyone, any business, even just understanding how to position yourself.
Exactly. Launching a product, building a brand, even just thinking about your career.
It's a whole new way of looking at things.
So start paying attention, see how these laws are at play everywhere.
Like in the brands we love,
the products we buy.
it's like a secret code.
Once you see it,
You can't unsee it.
and then you can start using it to your advantage.
So if we had to sum it all up, what are the biggest takeaways here? What should our listeners really remember?
For me, it's about perception and positioning.
Mm-hmm.
You can have a fantastic product,
Right.
but if you don't tell a compelling story, connect with your audience, position yourself right.
It's not enough.
Exactly. And don't overcomplicate things. Remember that one word, that core message. Keep it simple, keep it focused.
Absolutely. Okay, we've just scratched the surface here.
There's so much more to explore.
But hopefully this deep dive has given everyone some food for thought,
Some new ideas to play with.
and maybe even a new way of seeing how marketing shapes our world.
So what was your biggest aha moment? Which law resonated most with you? What are you going to do differently now? Let us know.
That's it for this deep dive into the 22 immutable laws of marketing. Keep those brains buzzing, and we'll catch you on the next episode of The Deep Dive.
Thanks for tuning in to Sam's Summaries. If you found this episode useful, let us know with a like, follow, and share. Also, if you haven't already, be sure to visit samfury.com to get free access to all of Sam's original summaries, which you can download as PDFs, as well as other exclusive content. It's all completely free at samfury.com.